Good morning, everyone. Now let us begin with seventh week. I hope you are practicing every day. You just have to read this and sit in your quiet period. You just have to play the video again so that you understand it and learn what all to be done in the quiet period for this week. So let us read further. Correcting thoughts. Anything that is created begins with a thought. The thought of something really is that something, only at the most refined vibration. Everything in the universe began with God's thought about creation. You are, in the most elementary sense, a thought of God. Rather, you are a part of that marvelous, perfect thought that God created all. Being a part of that thought, you are also the whole. God's thought that gave rise to creation is indivisible. I repeat, God's thought that gave rise to creation is indivisible. His one thought contains the entire blueprint for the cosmos and every single atom and soul. Furthermore, God is not separate from his thought any more than you are separate from your thoughts. That is why you are one with God. There is no other logical way to understand this. God is very much in tune with one with the thought that created us. You are really that thought in your most refined state. So you are one with God because we are the one thought that created everything. We can know everything about that thought. We are not just a separate aspect of that thought. No, we were created to know everything contained in God's thought that created everything. That means you can choose to think any aspect of God's thought you wish. It is just like tuning into a radio station. You tune into any knowledge about creation. One thing absolutely certain about God's thought is that it embodies all of God's qualities. You are of God's thought and you embody all of God's qualities, and so does every other aspect of God's thought. When you tune into some aspect of God's thought, you can be 100% certain to experience love, happiness, joy, bliss, truth, pure intelligence, peace, gentleness, unboundedness, energy, abundance, and non judgment, to name only a few. This is your experience that God planned in His thought when He created you. Remember, all of creation begins with a thought. You are a creator because you are made in the image of God and He is indisputably a creator. You create, your creations also begin with a thought. Then you experience what you create. If you begin with some aspects of God's thought that created the cosmos, you will have a creation just like God's creation. Your creation can then only give you the experience of God's qualities. Only those qualities are inherent in His thought. No other qualities are there. His thought cannot manifest what it doesn't have. This is a foolproof method for living life in heaven. Then to err is not human. Then life is not a struggle. Then all the forces of nature come to your aid as you experience only God's qualities. A glance around the world indicates this is not happening. When what went wrong? Even your own life appears to include some struggles, some errors, some pain. What went wrong? Nothing went wrong. Even your seeming errors, struggles, and pain point to your divinity and perfection. Remember, you are made in the image of God. God is sovereign. He created you with his thought, and so are you sovereign. Another way of saying you have free will, you are also a creator in God's image, and you create with your thoughts. God's thought, which you are one with, is available for you. You can choose to tune into that thought. That is your choice. It is your free will to use His thought for your creation, or you can choose to think a thought of your very own. Then your creation will have the qualities you assign to it. Many, many times you have chosen your own thought and created a miserable experience. That doesn't mean you are miserable. That's impossible. You can't change the perfection you are. However, as a creator, you can create and experience what appears less than perfect. Only when you start with God's thought can you be assured of perfection and all those other wonderful qualities. In a very real sense, the world you create by your own thoughts is an illusion. It is not the truth. Truth has permanence. Truth never changes. Truth describes the thought of God that created us and the cosmos. The thought of God that created us and the cosmos, that thought is truth. That thought tells of happiness, never sadness. It tells of bliss and joy, never despair. It tells of intelligence, never mistakes. It reveals abundance, never poverty. It brings infinite energy, never weakness. It is the hallmark of peace, never turmoil. This truth is simply God's thought that created the universe. The choice is yours. You can choose to create with God's thought or make one up of your own. God would have it no other way. You are created sovereign, you are created with a free will, you are created a creator. The fact you do create proves your divinity even if you choose to create a hell. Today you begin to change the nature of your creations. You change your creations to be exactly like God's thought. Your creation, your life, and your experience are to have only God's qualities. You can pretty much tell what your thoughts are by looking at your creations. If you are in debt and are afraid of the poor house, you have thoughts of lack and fail to realize the abundance in God's thought. If you are lonely and without anyone to share love with, you have thoughts that you don't deserve love or that it doesn't exist. That isn't true. You say for you. insist you want love and you want wealth. Of course, you want them. You want the experience of all the God's qualities. You want them with a passion. That desire is ingrained as part of your very nature. It is how you were created. You cannot get rid of the desire for love, for abundance, for knowledge, for joy, for peace, etc. It is a part of you. Nevertheless, there is some thought, probably even subconscious, that denies your creation the qualities you desire. How can I possibly change my thoughts if they are subconscious? You ask. Until now, it has been very difficult. Today, you start that process gradually, methodically, but certainly you will change your thinking so that it will create with God's qualities. You will tune into God's thought and claim it as your own. Every day this week, read this lesson, read each sentence slowly and digest its meaning. During your quiet periods, after focusing in the heart and getting your higher self signal, say, Dear name, my higher self, now reveal to me some of the errors in my thinking. Then sit quietly and let your higher self communicate. You will realize some thoughts that are creating havoc in your life. Write down those thoughts as they come to you. The lesson for this week is simply to identify those thoughts you need to correct. Notice in your activity throughout the day what your experiences are. Then, in your next quiet period, say, Reveal to me, name my higher self, the thoughts I have that gave me the experience of dash. This inventory is very important. You need to know the nature of your own thoughts before you can correct them. Your higher self gives that to you. This week, when you lie down in bed before going to sleep, think of those people who have been in your life. For each one, realize that he or she has reacted to you as you determined by your thoughts. Take full credit or blame for your experience with them. Send to each love from your heart. Feeling it go to them. Then forgive each, knowing what forgiveness really means. So, what are we going to do this week? We are going to ask the higher self in about what are the errors in my thought. And if anything happening in your life, just ask the higher self that what kind of thoughts are giving me that kind of experience. Only the thoughts which need correction, that is our aim for this week. Keep asking your higher self to give you the thoughts which are needing correction and just write down, make a note of it. So take your pen and paper with you and just keep writing what thoughts need correction. So you have to do the same thing, entering in your heart, unify with God, and asking your higher self signal. You may also remove the uninvited influences and focus on it, and then write down and take action. Action in the form of correcting those thoughts, thinking of the opposite of those thoughts. So let us begin the quiet period for 15 minutes. I'm putting an alarm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Do this practice every day for next 1